Will you all please join me in Gassho as I recite the words of our founder, Master Shinran Shonin. The emperor and his ministers, acting against the Dharma and violating human rectitude, became enraged and embittered. As a result, Master Genku, the eminent founder who had enabled the true essence of the Pure Land Way to spread vigorously in Japan, and a number of his followers, without receiving any deliberation of their crimes, were summarily sentenced to death or were disposed of their monkhood, given secular names, and consigned to distant banishment. I was among the latter. Hence, I am now neither a monk nor one in worldly life. For this reason, I have taken the term Toku, stubble-haired, as my name. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats. Good morning, everyone. Well, welcome on a beautiful summer's day. I know later on in the day the weather might get a little bit rainier again, but right for now we can try to enjoy the sunshine when it chooses to visit us. I would like to thank everyone who came last weekend. The picnic was a very wonderful event for us to get together and have some fun. And of course, the cooking is just out of this world. Whenever we have these picnics or these gatherings, and whenever there's cooking, my stomach is always full, even though I'm still trying to lose weight. Today's Gosandai, or quote, comes from Master Shinran Shonin's Kyogyo Shinsho, the very last part. And I know it was a little lengthy today, but I think it was very important for us to read it, because today is, I know this may not mean anything necessarily, but today is June 16th. Now, for those of you who do not know, Master Shinran Shonin is the founder of our sect of Buddhism, and he is enshrined right here behind me in this side of the shrine. So he is this first one right here. And Master Shinran Shonin was born in 1173, and he passed away January 16th of 1263, okay, 1263, and January 16th. So as a part of our Nishihonganji head temple's tradition is to honor Shinran Shonin every month on the 16th with a special service usually. This consists of chanting Shoshinge Gyofu style, but today we also chanted the Nembutsu Wasan, which we don't often get to do here at the temple. But since today is the 16th, I thought it was very appropriate for us to chant the Nembutsu and Wasan portion of the Shoshinge chant. I think it sounds very beautiful as it goes into many, many different tones and melodies. And Wasan were actually written in Japanese. Wasan, the term Wasan, implies that it was written in Japanese so that commoners in Japan, and I don't like to use that term all that much, but people who did not study Chinese, right, but Japanese people could understand the words, right? This was written for them. And it was supposed to be written in a melodic fashion so that they were enjoyable to listen to. And I should note that Jodo Shinchu, our sect of Buddhism, is not the only sect that does these wasan. Shingonshu and other schools of Buddhism do wasan style readings as well. And so I think today is a special day because it is the 16th, which is our monthly memorial to Shinran Shonin. But I also quoted this postscript from the Kyogyo Shinsho because it talks a little bit about Shinran. This is one of the very few times that Master Shinran actually talks about himself and talks a little bit about his history. So for those of you who do not know, Shinran Shonin was banished from Kyoto, Japan during his life. This was because he was very much a proponent or a person who promoted the Nembutsu teaching, the Namo Amida Butsu movement. And the powers that be at the time did not really like that because it was gaining popularity with the farmers, the, the merchants, and even the outcasts of society in Japan. So, they didn't like this idea of this teaching becoming so popular, so they banished them to the outer parts of Japan, which is why Shinran Shonin was banished to Echigo. And at this time, he was also defrocked, or this, he was not considered to be a monk anymore, which is why he has this famous line, hence I am now neither a monk nor one in worldly life. Or another way of translating it is, I am neither a monk nor a layperson. And on a first glance, this is actually a good way to sort of describe the ministers of Jodo Shinshu, of Honganji, okay? It is very true. We go through a very rigorous process of becoming ordained. Even for and especially for the men who become ordained, we are required to get our head shaved when we actually become ordained. And there is a whole process. That being said, even though we are ordained in clergy robes and we wear robes and we have to get ordained at the head temple, we are still not considered to be different than you. We are still not considered to be separate from you. We are not elevated in a sense to this special status, even though I am standing on on an elevated platform and at a podium here. We are not seen as these superior beings to anybody else. So when we think about it, this type of description is also a very good indicator of all of us traveling the Nembutsu path. This is why one of the many reasons why Jodo Shinshu, or our school, was so popular was while we have ordained clergy and while we have people who are definitely teachers, we are not seen as these superior beings. We are not seen as these enlightened people who are beyond reproach or who are beyond flaws, right? I have flaws just as much as the next person. I am still unenlightened. I wish I were further along the path of enlightenment, but in reality, I am with all of you walking this path of life, wandering, and sometimes just as confused as any of you. So this is why Jodo Shinshu is such an important and a beautiful teaching for all of us. Because once again, Shinran brings our attention back to the wisdom and compassion that is Amida Buddha. Coming back to us, all of us are benefiting from the wisdom and compassion from the Pure Land. And as Shinran states again and again in his writings, he himself receives the same benefit and the same type of treatment from Amida Buddha's Pure Land than all of you. So, a better way to describe this, right, is when we talk about, maybe I should say, in our lay lives, elite status. I'm certain that some of you may have a membership or may have some type of, membership or credit card or rewards, part of a rewards program, right? So I have to travel a lot sometimes for work and to visit the Portland, Oregon temple. And, I have a Hilton membership. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm gold status, right? So every time I check into the hotel or I check out, the desk person has to say to me, oh, thank you so much for being a gold member status. We really appreciate your loyalty. So I get some extra special treatment, and I get waters when I check in. Let's see, what else? I probably get late checkout. I get a certain amount of bonus points, right? I get to accumulate these bonus points, right? And I feel pretty good about myself. Ooh, like I'm special. I get to be gold status, right? This is Bonbu nature. This is part of the Saha world of illusion that Shinran Shonin is talking about. And it even can go into the teachings of Buddhism, right? Ooh, I have a robe, I'm special, I get to, I get to tell you guys what to do. But this is an illusion, and Shinran Shonin constantly says this again and again. And this is why, once again, we go back to the teachings of Jodo Shinshu. Amida Buddha does not treat me any different than Amida Buddha would treat any one of you. I am given the same wisdom and compassion than all of you. Again, right, we sometimes with our own human minds calculate, or we have, certain people in our lives that we would share more with or that we would do more for, right? And yet at the same time, in our sect of Buddhism, we are taught that this wisdom and compassion of the Dharma is equally being spread amongst all of us, right? Not one person is left behind due to their status, right? Or to their ethnicity, to their sexual orientation, to their gender identity, right? All beings are valued in the eyes of Amida Buddha. And even Shinran Shonin himself went the extra mile to talk about, just how far from enlightenment he was by giving himself the name Gutoku, right? Toku, right? I just said this for this reason, I have taken the term Toku, or stubble-haired, as my name. So we also know that the name that Shinran Shonin gave himself later in life was Gutoku. Gu means foolish or, stupid. But Toku means stubble-haired one. And it could imply that he was once a monk but no longer is. But it implies that he is not an enlightened being, right? And he purposefully put this name in front of him to show him, remind himself and others that he is no further along the path of enlightenment than anyone else is. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of us in our own lives could treat people with this type of equanimity? It's virtually impossible because we are human beings, we have our own prejudice, we have our own calculated minds, we judge people based on the way that they dress, and we make calculations of how people are. We see a person like Jeff Bezos or some other type of really wealthy person and we make assumptions. We see a homeless person on the street and we make assumptions. We see a person's ethnicity, we make assumptions. And yet at the same time, because of this human condition that we are all a part of, we are in need of wisdom and compassion from Amida Buddha. And the great news about all of this is that this wisdom and compassion is still shared with us. This is still given to us when we say Namo Amida Butsu. Or I shouldn't say that every time we say it, we get it. But saying Namo Amida Butsu is part of this grand picture of wisdom and compassion. And when in this regard, perhaps if we read listen to the teachings, deeply listen to Shinran Shonin's words, the words of the 7 Pure Land Masters, the words of Shakyamuni Buddha, maybe the next day or the day, or even now, or the next moment, we are able to treat everyone with this great sense of equanimity. But we can't guarantee that we will do it all the time. We are also unenlightened, just like Shinran Shonin, just like everyone else, just like all of us now. We are imperfect but beautiful. We are flawed, and yet we are still embraced by Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. This type of wisdom and compassion is shown to us through many ways, whether it's the Nembutsu, the reading of Shinran Shonin's words, or the readings of Shakyamuni Buddha's words through the sutras. All of these teachings are given to us freely, right? It's true, the temple does rely on donations in order to continue to keep the lights on, but this knowledge of Namo Amida Butsu is not denied to anybody. Anybody can share Namo Amida Butsu, right? Now, of course, I don't want you to be, going door to door trying to convert people, but at the same time, realizing that Namo Amida Butsu is freely shared amongst all beings, all sentient beings. This is not a secret teaching, right? We don't, hide behind the temple doors. We don't hide this teaching behind the temple doors. We are very much living this life of Nembutsu every day, every moment. And thankfully, Shinran Shonin wrote down many of his words to remind us of this. So while today's Dharma talk is a little bit lengthy, I think it was very important for us to remind ourselves who Shinran Shonin actually was. He was an eminent priest from Japan who lived during the Heian and Kamakura periods, or the 1100s and the 1200s. He experienced many Buddhist practices and yet still took refuge in the Nembutsu teaching by his master, Genku, or Honen Shonin. He was banished from the central government in Japan to spread the teachings to Echigo and to what is now like the Tokyo and the Kanto area. But then he came back to Kyoto to write many of his writings. And he, once again, never stopped sharing the teaching of Namo Amida Butsu to his followers, to anyone who would listen. And so with this in mind, I would like us to deeply reflect on the importance and the significance of Master Shinran as we celebrate today's what we call Meinichi, or monthly memorial service to Master Shinran Shonin. Please join me in Gassho. The emperor and his ministers, acting against the Dharma and violating human rectitude, became enraged and embittered. As a result, Master Genku, the eminent founder who had enabled the true essence of the Pure Land Way to spread vigorously in Japan, and a number of his followers, without receiving any deliberation of their alleged crimes, were summarily sentenced to death or were disposed of their monkhood, given secular names, and consigned to distant banishment. I was among the latter. Hence, I am now neither a monk nor one in worldly life. For this reason, I have taken the term Toku, stubble-haired, as my name. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandaps, namandaps, namandaps.